Hello, everyone. Today I'll continue speaking about sadhus and people who choose imbalanced forms of external spirituality because they're imbalanced from within. So today I will speak about renunciation. And it's not that I'm going to speak, I'm going to transmit the experience of what true renunciation is. I've extensively written about it in Yoga Sutras of Patanjali commentary book, where I've conveyed, not only through the proper translation of the Sanskrit text of Patanjali, but conveyed the essence of Siddha teachings that Patanjali was transmitting originally from the start. And so if you want to dive into this, you can also read that book. If not, you can tune in and experience the spirit of renunciation through this transmission. So what is renunciation? Through the downward cycle, we accumulated so much corruption that it led us to the main kind of a corrupt feature, the feature of escapism, victimization, and self-punishment or self-sabotage, which are one and the same sort of a pattern. And whatever the reason for that is or would be, renunciation is far from that. True renunciation is thoughtless, emotionless being. A true renunciation is possible only when you've created a foundation for spiritual evolution. It means you've healed yourself, you've aligned yourself, and now you're bathing in the higher awareness, free from thoughts and emotions. More so, you've healed your collective cluster, the bloodlines, ancestry lines, because you've dissolved the links between your individual space of consciousness or spiritual space of consciousness and the karmic residue, which is still there within the collective. So there is no way that all these shadows, all these limited in time and energy clusters of emotions and thoughts can find their way to you, to your space of consciousness, or to your body. So in other words, you dissolved the energetic ties through which your consciousness can get possessed. So in this world, we are continuously, at this point in this day and age, are in possession of someone's thoughts and emotions. Either we connect to them willingly, or knowingly, or unknowingly, or unwillingly. So when someone overpowers our will, we are possessed by their being. To be possessed by someone's being means to be possessed by all that which they represent. As long as these energetic ties or links exist between our own space of consciousness and the collective, we have a risk to be possessed, and we cannot say that we are renounced. True renunciation happens by frequency. When you dissolved all these ties and your frequency rises because of self-cultivation, because at this point, you're autonomous now being, autonomous by frequency and energetically, because you create that energetic barrier from within, because you've reconnected with a higher reality, and now you are absorbing that higher reality continuously without wasting it outwards, plus without allowing it to leak out into the collective space in an uncontrollable way. Uncontrollable way means someone comes in front of you and challenges you, and here you go, all emotional, all upset, unconscious, or unconsciously giving your conscious energy to these people and all that which they represent on a subtle level. So as long as you are still some form of energetic food for something or someone else, you're not a renunciate. True renunciation, true mastery is possible after the period or prolonged period of self-cultivation. The period of self-cultivation cannot happen or cannot be initiated until you have not awakened to yourself and you haven't refined all that emotional and thought residue which you inherited from your bloodlines, from your families, and whatever they have been connected for the past eons, thousands of years. And even though it sounds all like an impossible task, it is not, because that is all different frequencies of time and information and energy as one. You may call it, okay, it's information, it's time, it may appear as different, but the more energy you have, or the more that cluster is fed by many or by the majority, the stronger it is energetically, and it means the longer it will last, or it has a higher capacity to live longer, or it has higher capacity of longevity. It means it's got more time. The moment everyone disconnects from that cluster and doesn't support it, it dies off within the collective existence. For example, a belief. Everyone used to believe in a Poseidon, for example. And with time, people shifted into other beliefs and paradigms. And so that cluster of ideology just died off. Now, this is one example, but when you are on your own, you seem to be on your own in the physical body, but energetically, we're all interconnected. So the point of our renunciation is actually to gain autonomy. And this autonomy is not physical seclusion, although the physical seclusion can be there temporarily, but it's not a seclusion, it's just because your frequency has changed and you no longer vibe with people, not in a selfish way because you're so superior, all-knowing, but because you understand them, you're compassionate, but you do not choose to interact. That's a very different sort of a state of mind. Now, true renunciation happens when you awaken to the higher being, and you awaken when you absorb. Again, previously you were dispersed throughout the projection, entertaining different clusters of collective consciousness and all different paradigms, ideologies, beliefs, social ideas, morals, and whatever not, just everything we know, everything we observe. But as long as our consciousness is there, attached, feeding any element within a projected reality, it's not in a state of renunciation. So it means there is a leakage, there is energy drainage. And we cannot initiate the process of self-cultivation. So renunciation could also be called the stage of self-cultivation. Because after you've cultivated yourself, you go to the stage of actual spiritual alchemy or transformation, where everything you have known of yourself, physically or subtly, transforms into an aligned existence of a higher frequency. Again, when I call it a light being, people do not understand it's not the visible light. Subtler realities are invisible, but they could be called light realities because they emit a different frequency, high frequency vibrations or radiation. And as long as you're not sharing the same frequency, that reality remains invisible for you. You can perceive with whatever you have right now as brain, neurology, biochemistry, only that which fits within the known dimensional paradigm, and whatever impulses the brain can interpret and build into an image. So when you come across something beyond your currently known frequency, it becomes something abstract, something bizarre, because the mind fails to build it into something known. So many of our experiences, maybe apparitions and stuff like this, are still of a similar frequency, which is very close to ours, because it still comes from the paradigm of thoughts and emotions. But when I speak about spiritual frequencies, speak of a much higher frequency, it can only be transmitted beyond words. You can perceive it through some transmissions. It's a rare frequency. It's not something you come across every day. And oftentimes you cannot even sustain sort of an awakened state when you are experiencing it, because it's beyond any known states you know. And you usually plunge into a dream state or deep sleep. But the more awakened you become, the more you can sustain that high frequency within your body and your mind, while still being aware. That's why it's called awakening, because you are awakened beyond the dream, beyond the deep sleep, beyond the known. That's why it's called the state of awakening. But the state of awakening means you also need to align yourself and integrate with all the other elements within yourself. And so the state of renunciate is not about your physical being, what you wear, what you eat or don't eat. What you do or don't do. It's about who you are. You're isolated by the frequency only. You're renunciate by the frequency. If your frequency is beyond the majority, you will be appearing isolated. Not appearing isolated, I don't know how to say it, but it's just that there will be nothing that you can share with people on a day-to-day basis. So it's called a state of liberation, of being unbound while still being alive. So if you choose to entertain certain frequencies, certainly you can, and you can do it very well. But if you are of a high frequency, low frequency may get attached to you. Or you may choose to entertain something or not to entertain. Again, the state of a renunciate means you have a freer choice and will, because you perceive it from a higher standpoint. When you're still in an unrefined state, low frequency, you have no free will or free choice, because it's dictated by the veil, by the distortions, by the limitations, by the corruption. Although you may feel or think that you choose, but it's the choice of the corrupt self, usually. When we are when we are awakened, another sign is we gain discernment. We can clearly see our limited self and the high awareness. And if we are in that state, we can choose then to make choice according to our higher awareness standpoint or according to our corruption. That's why the awakened state is a state of responsibility. It's not a state of victim. When you are in a state of corruption, you are a victim of the projection, and the projection has power over you. It holds you bound. Although it's an illusion, you feel like, or it depends on your conscious energy supply. You have no such awareness and you keep on feeding it by default. So you're not a renunciate. You may have an idea, oh, because I'm wearing yellow, orange, pink, white clothes, I'm this and that. You're entertaining someone's ideologies, feeding the projected reality in the name of this or that. In reality, you're not a renunciate. You're a wannabe. True renunciation is that frequency that is not supported by the majority. It's the frequency of being above the known. That's how you get into that state, but naturally. And so you cultivate yourself, you transform yourself and evolve further, unbinding yourself from this low frequency collective cluster and getting into a high frequency collective cluster, which is called Siddha Consciousness or Immortal Consciousness or whatever you wish to call it, it doesn't really matter. It's recognizable by the frequency alone. So renunciation is not defined by the external actions, appearances. It's defined by the quality of consciousness, refined or unrefined. So when it's a refined consciousness, there are no links between that consciousness and the low frequency existence. The low frequency existence can still be observed, but that high frequency consciousness cannot be touched or affected by that low frequency existence of the majority. Cannot be touched, meaning there's nothing to relate to, because whatever there has been or whatever there was has been refined, dissolved. That's the whole point of spiritual refinement and eventually transformation, ascension. All these words are very fancy and attractive, but the majority of people, which is everyone actually, who utters them have no reference point. Because they're not that. True spirituality, living spirituality, is when there are living examples. True spiritual lineages are those which have living vessels of high frequency. It's like carrying a torch and passing it on to further generations. How can you be an enlightened or renounced being if you don't carry the torch? If you're not of light? Imagination, thoughts, emotions, ideas are signs that you're not a renunciate. If your predominant state is free from thoughts and emotions, you're not entertaining anything, you're just bathing in your bliss, cultivating yourself, then you are a renunciate. Then you are brahmachari or brahmacharini. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, I explain that very clearly. Brahmacharya. You know how to control the creative force within yourself. You're a master then. Master doesn't mean you are, superior or evolved. You just mastered a certain level of creation within your own awareness space, conscious space. The same applies to different supernatural powers that an enlightened being can exhibit. There are powers of spirits and entities of the invisible or subtler part of creation that is close to us. And there is the natural power of an enlightened, integrated being who is now refined to the point of being autonomous in their light body or their spiritual essence, so they can exhibit different features. The physical, they can have physical skills and qualities as well as subtle. Why? Because their subtle body or being and the physical are both active at the same time. Yet the more we evolve, the more our light essence or subtle being or light body takes over the physical. The more unrefined we are and the more bound we are, the easier we are possessed by low frequencies. A true renunciate cannot be possessed by low frequencies. They can host higher frequencies or collective higher existence, but they are not possessed, because there's a difference between hosting and possession, or connecting and possession. Possession means, or a principle of possession means someone else's will or energy, substratum or essence is overpowered by something else or someone else. And the means to attain it can be so many: manipulation, abuse, as we know it, domination, aggression, luring, preaching. All these are so-called low frequency tendencies, or we can call them demonic tendencies, and that's why, so that some people understand, which keep on attaching one's soul or mind consciousness to the projection. One way or the other, you feed that projection. A true renunciate doesn't feed anything. They have awakened, they questioned. They don't have any ideologies. They see the truth beyond words as frequency, as being. They can use words to convey that frequency, to embody it, to bring it into the body of words, into their own body. Low frequency beings cannot do that. They use the known notions and ideas to just express what they already know. A true renunciate doesn't read anything or learn through words. They know from within, and then they can transfer that frequency into the frequency of words or whatever, express it through words. But these words will be vibrant. They will be the original seed of the truth. The truth means the higher frequency, the higher reality that will permeate through these words or writings or the body. Information is of no value if it's not supported by frequency, by the being. Frequencies, in other words, it's the being, it's that what you are, who you are. You can say of yourself this or that. If you know who you are, no one can break you. Because you know who you are, not through the man-made reality or its notions or its validation or opinion. You know who you are by the way you are. And only when you are this way, you can say, I am I know of renunciation. I am a true aspirant ready for evolution. In other words, renunciation is that which our ancestors left us under names and symbols of Yantra Murga, Mahamudra, Shambhavi Mudra, Samadhi, Samadhi, Samana, Susamana, or Sushumna. Sushumna is not in your backbone. It's a state of renunciation. It's absorption into the higher chamber. And above in the energy body, it is the balance of the subtle with the physical. Knowledge is power. The power lies in humility. When you have power, you abstain from interference. Blessings to everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day.